This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. I'm Seth Merrow, the week after as it was, but still a nice day of racing in line. This coming week we have Royal Ascot and Belmont Derby is coming up in the next few weeks down at Belmont, and then Saratoga Del Mar right around the corner as we get into the summer. But again, wrapped up a nice Triple Crown last week. We had some discussion over the past few days about that. We'll get some opinions maybe from our guests this morning, but nice day today down at Churchill Downs. Nice evening, I should say, as they kick off at about 6 o'clock today. But the Foster will highlight a nice stakes card, and we'll hit on some of that. With our first guest, Mark Casse is going to be on tape. We'll have him first. Also, a couple of days ago, sports betting underway in America as Monmouth Park opened their sports book, the first of the venues around the country to jump into the pool after the Supreme Court ruling a couple of weeks ago. I thought we'd reach out and find out how the first couple of days went and what sports betting might mean down at Monmouth for horse racing as well. So Bill Knopf from Monmouth Park will join us in a few minutes. And then towards the end of the program, Joe Christofek, paddock commentator down at Churchill Downs, will jump on board live with us, give us a little update on the weather and whatnot, and preview some of the really, really nice stakes action. The Matt Winn, the Wise Dan, the Fleur-de-Lis, the Foster, and the Regret on the card. Excuse me, this evening again, down at Churchill Downs. So we'll hit on that with Christofek a little bit later, but we'll also hit on some of the stakes races with this interview we taped yesterday with Mark Casse, because the return of World Approval, who threw in a little dud last time in the Kilroe out in Southern California after a pretty good seasonal debut down at Tampa. So we got filled in on what Mark Casse expects from World Approval tonight. He's got a couple other stakes runners in as well this evening at Churchill Downs. And then we also looked a couple of weeks ahead to the Queen's Plate and got updates on some of his runners there also, because of course we will be live from Woodbine that Queen's Plate weekend. So up next, trainer Mark Casse. Happy to be joined now by Mark Casse. He has some stakes runners in on the really, really nice stakes card at Churchill Downs on Saturday night. Mark, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Happy to have you on board to talk about some of the stakes runners, and also we'll wind up the conversation getting a little heads up on maybe some of your Queen's Plate runners as well, because we're headed up for some broadcasts in a couple of weeks, so we're looking forward to that. But let's start with Saturday night, and one of the highlights of the card clearly at Churchill will be the Wise Dan Grade 2 event, couple $100,000, mile and a 16th on the grass, but it's the return of World Approval, the return from the most recent race in March in the Kilroe. And Mark, we're going to take a look at a couple of races, because certainly the seasonal debut continued what we saw from World Approval last year. So first up, we'll look at the Tampa Bay Stakes back in February. World Approval is the number 7 horse here, gets it done at 1-5. But then the follow-up, and we'll watch the stretch run of that also, the Kilroe, World Approval will be the number 5 horse and will wind up running 5th in the Kilroe. What was your takeaway from the Kilroe? Again, right now we're watching that Tampa Bay race, and the seasonal debut was so good. What was your takeaway from kind of the regression and the aberration out in Southern California in the Kilroe?
Well, I think it was a combination of a few things. One, we had given him some time after the Breeders' Cup, and when we brought him back for the stake at Tampa, I think he had to run a little harder than we thought he would, and maybe it took a little more out of him than we thought. I had a decision to make. I had to either sit on him for 2 months and wait for the Maker's Mark, Eric Keeneland, or come back in a month and go out to the Shoemaker Mile in hopes of then, bouncing back and coming to the Maker's Mark. And it just didn't work out. He seemed to be a little flat out there. He usually breaks extremely well, and he broke slow that day. And I'm not blaming Flavien at all. It was his first time he ever rode the horse, so he just maybe didn't know him as much as he could. If you don't put world approval into the race early, he will just kind of go around there. And I think that's a little bit of what happened. Johnny knows him well. Johnny knows you got to get after him and get him into the race. And once you get him into the race, then you're good. But that first 16th of a mile is very crucial. So we came back. We gave him a break. Our goal has always been, of course, the Breeders' Cup this year at Churchill. And so we just tried to come up with a plan and the best way to get him to that. And that's where we are today.
I also read that when he got back home, as it were, just didn't kind of see the same sparkle, so you were kind of waiting to make decisions. But certainly, as I look down at the workouts, the May 26th, 59, and the minute flat on June 2nd seems to indicate since then in the morning he's kind of rebounded.
Well, that's correct. What happened was, and again, I knew it was going to be, he comes off a flat performance, and now we have to bring him back and get him ready to run in a month. Well, there's not a lot of time to make any, evaluation of where we're at. So I was kind of going blind into the Maker's Mark, and I thought, to myself, the only way I'm going to run in the Maker's Mark is if he just shows me he absolutely is just raring and ready to go. And I just didn't see that. I thought, again, he was still a little flat. That's no longer the case. He's raring and ready to go. So he tried to jump on me the day. He's a tough old guy. He jumped off of all. I went to pat him on his neck. He jumped off of all fours and tried to jump on me. So he's ready.
Now, you were aiming for the Dixie, but of course the weather prevented that. Is that an obstacle, or did that just benefit with a couple more weeks, as it were?
Well, we were ready. We were ready for the Dixie, but again, the Dixie was only the start. And our goal, if all were to go well, is to make the 4-star day. We think that it's important to make the 4-star day, then probably the Woodbine Mile, and then the Breeders' Cup. So I didn't want to chance it on that weather. So, they got so much rain. So it wasn't a big deal. And as it turns out, he gets to come back run. This is home for him, Churchill Downs. I'm at Churchill Downs right now. And this is home for him. This is where he's been a large part of his career. And why not get a race over the turf course that he's going to be running the Breeders' Cup on?
So essentially, good to hear, same schedule as last year, pretty much with the 4-star Dave, the Woodbine Mile, and the Breeders' Cup Mile. We'll get a chance to see him up here in that 4-star Dave. Looking forward to that. Just give me a little thought on your confidence for this afternoon, because I laughed. I think it was the Blood Horse article I read last night where you said, yeah, well, given his last performance, I'm going to be nervous. But, I was pretty nervous when he won 4 in a row, too. That's the life of a trainer. I kind of like that.
I'm always nervous.
So what's your confidence level Saturday night?
But you always, in your mind, when a horse runs the way he did, and he really hasn't done that before to us in some time, yeah, of course I'm worried. But I'm also confident. So he's cranked. He's ready. Johnny's coming to ride him. And, just need a little racing left.
Yeah, it did look like an aberration, certainly, out in Southern California. So looking forward to the return Saturday night. Let's talk about some of your other runners in the Fleur-de-Lis. You have Valedorna, and I did the handicapping show earlier. I used her on top in a race that I think is very competitive, but I thought coming out of the Double Dog Dare, She's coming in perhaps good form. A mile and an eighth on Saturday night in the Grade 2 event. We're going to take a look at that win in the Double Dog Dare. Valadorna is going to be the number 9 horse here, getting up by 3/4 of a length. She comes in, again, going back to some workouts showing on the page at Keeneland. Seems like she's on her toes. What are her expectations Saturday night for Valadorna?
Well, we've been real happy with the progression. She's come back off an injury, and we kind of tried to go fairly slow with her, let her, build her confidence. I think she's probably at the top of her game right now. As you say, the race is very competitive. It's a tough race, so we'll need some racing luck. The good news is she really likes Churchill Downs as well. So, it's not going to be easy, but I think the winner will have to go through her to get there.
Yeah, again, it's a really fun, competitive race, but I thought off of that Keeneland victory that we just watched, she seems to be in good form right now, so I used her on top. I'm rooting for you. We'll see how that works out.
Thank you.
Also on the card at Churchill, the Regret Grade 3 event, $100,000 for 3-year-old fillies on the grass. You have Heavenly Love in here. And we're going to go back and watch the Alcibiades at Keeneland from last October, because that was a nice win for Heavenly Love. She's going to be the 9 horse in here, gets it done at a 5-to-1 price. And it seems like since then, there's some nice workouts underneath. It's going to be interesting to see what she does this afternoon, coming out of that Appalachian last time where she ran a good buyer figure, and I'm a buyer guy. But this was her last win, and so it seems like coming out of the Alcibiades, 4 starts since. I'll ask you, has she turned out to be, since this win we just looked at in the Alcibiades, has she turned out to be a little bit of a puzzle?
Oh, big one. I don't have a lot of hair. She trains extremely well, so that's where she kind of tricks you. But her starts on the dirt since that win have just been terrible. I thought her last race was a big improvement, and this is a nice field, but it's not as tough as her last start. So she's training very well. The bad news about that is she always trains very well, and you can see that her form is definitely off. I think she's going to run good, though. She got a good coast. She seems to be in a good frame of mind, and like I said, it's a touch easier than the last race, so we'll see.
Yeah, last race, Rushing Fall and The Way I Am were in front of her, 2 races back, Monomoy Girl, so certainly this is a little easier on Saturday night. Let me ask you as a trainer and just as a handicapper, we look at these all the time, and it seems like you're indicating that is a real thing, kind of morning glories where horses work out just eye-poppingly, and then in the afternoon not so much. And what, as a trainer, can you do?
I don't really believe in morning glories,
okay,
to be honest with you.
Okay.
I believe that horse that shows you what she shows has ability. We just have to figure out the best way to use it. I always say training horses is like a puzzle. You have to keep playing with the pieces until you get them to fit. She is too talented not to be good at something. So we just have to figure it out, and But I'm not much on morning glories. I think there are some horses out there that want to go as fast as they can, and so in the morning, the horse is going as fast as he can, and he goes in 47. Well, 47 is a good half-mile work, but it'll get you nothing in the afternoon. So. But that's not the case with her, and we don't work our horses that way. If you see a horse working fast of ours, they're doing it, in hand. They're not all out asking for their life. I think that's where morning glories come in. I think there's some horses, like I said, that'll go as fast as they can, and you can't control them, and that's a morning glory. I'm not much on morning glories, and I've trained a few horses in my day.
That's why I was asking a trainer's opinion. It's always interesting to get the perspective from the guys who are the professionals as opposed to those of us just looking at the PPs. But that now leads me into some of your Queen's Plate runners, as I say, we're going to be up there in a couple weeks, looking forward to it. And last weekend at Woodbine, they ran the plate trial, and we're going to take a look at that. Telekinesis off of this one, certainly going to be one of the horses that will take a lot of action in the Queen's Plate. The plate trial, Telekinesis is going to be the number 2 horse here, wins at 45 cents to the dollar. This was only career start number 4. So this is a pretty good looking horse with a limited resume that has a lot of potential. But Mark, I was going to ask you, and as I say, it leads into it. I look at that June 1st workout leading into this race. A bullet work, I would love to see. It's the best of 58. I would love to see what number 2 was, because you guys had this horse, Telekinesis, 45-2 in the morning, and then follows it up with a nice win in the plate trial that we just saw. Talk a little bit about that workout and how that played into it, and what you thought of the plate trial last weekend.
Well, and that was him shut down from the quarter pole. We have radios on our riders, and we were shutting him down from the quarter pole home. So he was just galloping. But we had gotten him up there. It was this. I like to get a work over the Tapeta, and you know what? He worked fast. Was never our intention, and like I said, he did it very easy. So I thought his race was good. I think it was a new place. I think that he will really improve from that race. So I think he'll be a horse to be reckoned with in the Queen's Plate.
And as you say, that was the first start over the synthetic surface. I have to assume, given the result, you were pretty happy with the first try over the surface.
I was. I thought to me, in the race, he looked a little. I think maybe around the half-mile pole, he thought the race was over, and for a second, it looked like that horse was going to run by him, and he kind of said, "Oh, well, wait a second here. Oh, you want me to run some more?" And then he took off again and finished up nice and galloped out nice.
Still figuring it out, though, with only 4 starts. So,
for sure. 4 starts, 3 tracks, 2 different surfaces. He's got a lot of learning to do.
Yeah, and a lot of potential, certainly, for Stone Street and you. And let's move on. Also, last weekend, the Woodbine Oaks, Wonder Godot, who, and I'm pronouncing that correctly, right? I hear a lot of people say Godot. It's Godot, right?
If you ask 10 people, they'll give you 10 different answers. We call her Wonder Godot.
Okay, all right.
But the best one, I think it's really Godot. Or what is it? Let's see. Her name. She's named after Wonder Woman and Gal Gadot. I call her Gadot.
All right.
So,
okay. Well,
but now, if you ask me an hour from now, I might call her something else.
Now I'm going to have to find out.
She's an extremely nice horse.
And we're going to take a look at the Woodbine Oaks from last weekend. Dixie Moon, another nice filly, is going to win by a head. They will be well clear. Wonder Godot or Godot, the number 3 horse, finishes second, but they're well clear of the third place runner. But we're showing this, and it's interesting, and we're folding it into the conversation because the game plan will be to take a shot with her against the boys in the Queen's Plate?
Yes, she's going to run against the Queen's Plate, in the Queen's Plate. And that was always, we've always felt 1.25 miles was her game. If you only got to watch the last part of that race, you didn't get to see her. She kind of lost the race at the start in the Oaks. She lunged at the start and then got pinched back, and there wasn't a whole lot of pace, and so she didn't have the best of trips in the Oaks. We're hoping, for a better trip in the Queen's Plate. Johnny's going to come ride her. Johnny Velasquez, who's ridden her probably more than anybody. And Patrick Husbands is going to ride Telekinesis.
Oh, nice. And I should ask you, and I probably should have pulled up the replay too, but this was the more recent race, the Woodbine Oaks. But I should go back to the Kentucky Oaks. I've liked her all year long, and that Kentucky Oaks performance behind Monomoy Girl, I mean, she's just beaten half a length. You guys had to be proud of the effort in the Kentucky Oaks from Wonder Godot.
We were, and it was going to be really close. I agree with Stewart's decision not to take Monomoy Girl down. I don't disagree with that. But what happened was when Monomoy Girl came out, it was going to be a ding-dong to the finish. And when Monomoy Girl came out and hit us, it caused our filly to jump to her left lead. And when she did, that's when she lost a little bit of momentum. Or it was going to be very close. But Monomoy Girl is a super filly, and she is tough. So there's no disgrace in losing to her, that's for sure.
No, that was a fabulous performance. Yeah. And now I have to ask if you think the 1.25 miles is good and the Queen's Plate is on the agenda. I know, you don't want to look too far ahead, but Alabama perhaps up here at Saratoga?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, very good.
That is the plan.
That's what we'll look for. And I just wanted to touch on one more potential Queen's Plate runner. Go back to May 20th, an allowance optional claimer. Cooler Mike will be the winner in here, but the number 1 Neepawa will run third. And as I understand it, you may send Neepawa to the Queen's Plate as well. This is a horse that last year ran second in the Coronation Futurity. This year, this was a nice performance, maybe perhaps leading into the Queen's Plate up at Woodbine. Is that the game plan for Neepawa?
I think he could be the sleeper. He's training extremely well now. He is kind of blossomed at this time of year. Florent Geron's going to go and ride him, and if somebody's looking for a long shot play, you might want to put $2 on him. I think he's going to run extremely well.
Yeah, nice. We're always looking for the long shots. And Mark, before we let you go, just want an update on Flame Away. Came out of the Kentucky Derby performance. That had to be a little bit disappointing after really a preseason that was just fabulous. The Kitten's Joy, the Sam Davis, the nice second in the Tampa Bay Derby, the nice second in the Bluegrass, and as I say, a little bit disappointing in the Kentucky Derby. But as I understand it, next up, a week away, take a little shot out in Ohio in the Ohio Derby?
Yeah. He trained really well this morning. He's going to do a little something in the morning, and we're on our way to Ohio.
What was the game plan to make that decision?
Just I gave him a little break, and, Mr. Oxley wanted to try to focus on, maybe the Jim Dandy or the Haskell, and so we talked about it in the best way, and the Ohio Derby's $500,000, and he wanted to keep him on the dirt, so that's why we're going to do it.
Sounds good. So possibility we'll see him at Saratoga as well then.
I hope so.
Very good.
That means he's been successful prior.
Very good. And hopefully we'll see you up at Saratoga as well. Maybe we'll have you sit in some morning with us on the backside. But in the meantime, wish you a lot of luck Saturday evening at Churchill Downs. And Mark, appreciate the visit.
Okay. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Mark Casse, World Approval Saturday night. We're going to look for that one to potentially rebound after the kind of aberration out in Southern California. The way he's working looks very good, but a couple other stakes runners as well. And Queen's Plate in a few weeks. Looking forward to that also. Foster, obviously the highlight on the card, but World Approval in the Wise Dan is going to attract a lot of attention, certainly tonight at Churchill Downs. A little bit later, we'll talk more Churchill with Joe Christofek, but we're going to take this break and catch up and see how the first couple of days of sports betting played out in New Jersey at Monmouth Park. Bill Knopf, Vice President of Business Operations for Monmouth, will join us right after this. Stay tuned.
Dirty windows? Don't do it yourself. Call Clean Image, your window cleaning professionals, and enhance the look of your business or home without the worry. Clean Image pledges nothing less than 100% customer satisfaction. It's guaranteed. Homes, offices, bed and breakfast, vacation homes, and more. Clean Image has cleaned them all. Carpet and floor cleaning, pressure washing, and janitorial services are also available. Call today, 446-1397. That's 446-1397. Online at clean-image.net.
And make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots. In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. And a couple of weeks ago, Supreme Court made a momentous decision that sports betting would be allowed in the country. And no place was more ready to go than New Jersey and Monmouth Park, and I wanted to get filled in. I guess there was some tweaks with the legislation, so it took a week and a half or so to get underway. But Thursday, the first bet was taken, and I wanted to catch up and see how things went the first couple of days and maybe how it will play into helping out horse racing down in New Jersey going forward. So I thought I'd reach out to the folks at Monmouth Park, and we have Bill Knopf, the Vice President of Business Operations, on the phone. Bill, good morning.
Good morning, Seth.
Happy to have you on board to talk a little bit about things and how they played out. And I during the break, I asked if you folks were excited, and you said certainly were, but just fill us in. We're only a couple days in, but how'd the first 2 days of sports betting work out?
It's been a great start. There's a lot of excitement and energy, and the fans have come out, even though we've opened in the middle of the week, on a Thursday and a Friday. We've had crowds from the start at noon when we started taking bets all the way till, I think our folks were telling us that there was probably a couple hundred people at 1 o'clock in the morning watching cementing baseball. So it's added a whole new level of excitement to the park.
And I am correct that you guys have been ready to go for a while now. You were anticipating this move in Washington from the Supreme Court, and it was pretty much for you all, just, as I say, there had to be a tweak in legislation, but it was kind of walk in and flip the light switch. You were that ready to go. Yeah,
I mean, Dennis Drazen obviously this is a multi-year battle for us in New Jersey that he's been in, going on 4 years. And after the court hearing back in December with the Supreme Court, he was very confident that we were going to come out ahead. And at that moment, our partner William Hill, who has been in it from the beginning with us as well, made the decision that we're going to start preparing the facility now. And we worked all winter, December, January, and the spring months, and not knowing when a decision was going to come out, we put a lot of resources, upwards of $1 million into the facility, preparing. It was a lot of infrastructure. You really have to do a lot of wiring with the machines and surveillance, and really, what the sports environment needs in terms of television. So, no, you're correct. By the time we got the ruling, we certainly had to, do some tweaks, as you said, but we were largely ready to go.
And for folks who maybe aren't familiar with the sports betting side of things, if you walked into your sports book facility today, for instance, what would be available on the menu?
So you would see approximately 100 screens with all different types of odds. Part of our screens are future book odds. So you can bet, say, all of the major sports, baseball, football, basketball, college basketball. You can bet the winners right now. Besides that, we've got every baseball game that is offered on a daily basis. We've got not only the straight bets of whether it's somebody's going to win by a half a run or something, but then we do reverse lines and alternate lines for baseball. The World Cup is incredibly popular, so we've got every game on the World Cup, as well as odds to win the World Cup. I mean, yesterday was a great example. Spain was playing Portugal, which was a pretty big game in the World Cup, and I walked into our bar at 2 o'clock, and it was standing room only, and the fans were going crazy. So it's we have William Hill, fortunately, has a very extensive betting menu, and it's any sport that's currently going, we'll have odds on it.
Something tells me you've attracted some of our viewers here in upstate New York to make the trip down to the shore, probably. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are going to be very, very interested. Well, let's touch on the main topic of interest to those of us in the horse racing game. And again, you folks have been anticipating for a while. And hats off to everyone down there at Monmouth, because the New Jersey Horsemen involved with the folks running Monmouth, and Horsemen are involved in that as well. You've done a great job keeping that meet going, and Monmouth Park has certainly been iconic here on the East Coast as part of the racing scene for years and years. But what does this sports betting mean to the horse racing game?
Yeah, I mean, I think the word is survival. As you said, it's been a tough road with us, with all of the competition and the alternative gaming that's surrounding us, with obviously New York and Pennsylvania and Delaware, Maryland. So we really tried hard, as you said, to preserve that summertime meet and make it special. And we draw large crowds, but our purses have taken a hit through the years. And so what this is going to mean is it's money back into our horse racing product. And our track is run by the Horsemen, which is the only one that I know of in the country. And so we're still committed to racing. And we want to make the racetrack better, not only from the facility, but we want to put money back into purses and make it more competitive. And, we maybe even run more days at some point, going into the fall. But, we want to integrate our horse racing product with the sports product and have a happy marriage with the two.
Well, that brings me to another question I had, because some of the things I've read over the past, since sports betting has really been talked about, and I agree with it. I'll see if you agree and what the thought is down there. As opposed to casinos attached to racetracks, the whole racino concept, sports books attached to racetracks, I think there's a lot more crossover potential. First, I think horse players are probably sports betting players to begin with, but if folks go in to bet the sports and they haven't tried horse racing, I think they're more logically going to gravitate towards the horse racing product as compared to the people pulling the levers on the slot machines.
We agree 100% with, and we've seen it actually just even in the past few days. When you bet a World Cup game or a baseball game, I mean, you're sitting there for 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, and we've interspersed the racing product amongst the television. So, and we've got our self-service and mutual teller race machines adjacent to our sports machines to give those folks the opportunity. And we've already heard requests. Hey, can you move Delaware Park over here or whatever it is, for the TVs. And so we know they're betting it. And so we absolutely agree there's a great crossover between the two.
And I'm also assuming, and I think it's a safe assumption, that the facility is a year-round. Racing is summertime, but the sports book is a year-round facility.
It is, and our simulcasting is year-round actually
Sure.
at Monmouth as well. So we're used to really the long hours, the 7 days a week. Our bettors are used to it. We actually have a good core simulcasting business, but now obviously the sports book just adds to that.
And I have to ask, because it seems obvious, but I will ask what your thoughts are and the folks involved, the William Hill people as well. As you say, you've got a betting menu now, World Cup and future bets and baseball and whatnot, but you guys have to just be salivating looking to September, October, November, December, and Super Bowl time with the NFL.
Absolutely. Yeah, we know, and we've talked with the William Hill guys, and they've given us a good idea of how much larger the volume is in the fall. And, it's interesting. We had a good talk with them, and this weekend actually will be really a good test. Is in the summertime is when we draw our largest crowds. Obviously, there's not a lot of sports betting product, but Father's Day, which is coming up tomorrow, is our second largest day of the year. We'll have 20,000 people there, and it'll be interesting to see how that large of a crowd adapts to the sports book. We could envision a lot of dads putting in, future bets as presents, for dad. But then you come into the fall, we naturally close down racing, but then we ramp up on the sports side. So we actually think it's going to be a good balance between the two.
I love that. Who wants a tie? I want a future bet on the World Series.
Exactly.
That's perfect. Also have to ask you, because you've kind of touched on it, alluded to it a little bit. Sportsbook is very different than pari-mutuel wagering, where the horse racing game, the house gets a cut no matter what, and everything works out. Sportsbook, you're making a line, and if it's a bad line, things can go bad. I know from reading articles a couple of weeks ago, the bookies in England were kind of sitting on the edge of their seats waiting for the Epsom Derby result as the Aidan O'Brien runner got a lot of money. But again, the odds have to be set properly for things to work out. So I'm assuming that was the game plan in teaming up with William Hill. They have that kind of experience.
That's exactly correct. They're professionals. This is what they do for over 100 books in Nevada, as well as obviously Europe. And having a professional risk manager take those chances and willing to take. I mean, William Hill, I think, is known throughout the country for taking large bets. They're very player friendly, and we subscribe to that theory as well. So, but as they've said to me already in the first couple of days, we're going to take some hits. Baseball, we took a hit in the first day and we did better the second day. So, that's just how it rolls.
Sure.
It'll hopefully even out over the course of the year where we make our profit. But having a team like William Hill in our camp, is nice to have.
And again, the Monmouth tied in very closely with the Horsemen. What has been the response from the Horsemen? I'm assuming, as we said at the top of the conversation, just has to be a lot of excitement down there.
It does. All the Horsemen, this has been their battle as well. And really, the Horsemen and New Jersey, I mean, a lot of these owners, trainers, have, we haven't had the chance since you go back to 2010 when we had the elite meet. We had, $1 million a day purses. We were receiving a subsidy from the casinos at that point. That went away the past, handful of years. So they've stuck it out with us, and they've been involved with the court battles and have been informed on, the progress of that when we've gotten shut down a few years ago and trying to open. And so now to actually see it a reality, it's really a joyous sort of celebration that everybody can partake in. Not only the patrons, but the horsemen feel a sense of accomplishment as well.
Yeah, just as a horse racing fan, certainly rooting for you, as I'm sure everybody in the audience, because as I say, Monmouth been an iconic part of racing here on the East Coast for years and years, and like to see everything get bigger and better down there, and hopefully this spreads across the horse racing industry as well. So again, we're rooting for you guys as this gets underway. And Bill, before we let you go, I got a couple other things. First, I want to touch on tomorrow. Great day of racing tomorrow at Monmouth with the Pegasus, and what else do we have? The Regret, the Mr. Prospector, the Dan Horn, but the Pegasus for 3-year-olds. Nice day of racing down there tomorrow.
It is, yeah. We'll we've made a decision to try to bundle some stakes on certain days, and we had one back on Saturday and Memorial Day, and we had one of the largest handles we've ever had on that Memorial Day Saturday, and tomorrow's another good example of that. And especially when you have a crowd like we're going to have tomorrow of 20,000, that you give them some great betting opportunities, and it makes it for a fun day.
And I have to ask this. Was it about 7 o'clock on Saturday night that the phone line was already burning, extolling the virtue of the Haskell in Monmouth Park to Bob Baffert?
Well, it's no secret that Bob Baffert and loves to bring his horses here. So if our ticket sales are any indication, I think people are taking a chance that hopefully we're lucky enough to have another Triple Crown winner win and come down to Monmouth, and obviously that's the ultimate goal, is to have Justify come down for the Haskell. But we're hopefully on very good terms with WinStar Farm as well. They actually have sponsored the race prior to the Haskell for many years, the WinStar Matchmaker. So hopefully it's a good tie-in for everybody, and we're crossing our fingers.
The Matchmaker is one that goes back in I've been around long enough to remember that whole concept that you get the season with the sire and whatnot. That was a fun race, certainly over the years.
It's still going. WinStar has done a really nice job. They've sponsored it 4 years in a row now, and so it's always been the race right before the Haskell. So to me, it sounds like a perfect match.
Well, we're rooting for him up here at Saratoga, and they did. American Pharoah had the double, had the Haskell Travers
right.
double, so we'll see how
Haskell
it plays
Travers.
out. And Bill, I'm embarrassed to say I have never been to Monmouth here at OTB. We've talked about going on the road a couple of times because, of course, we've been down to Gulfstream and up to Woodbine, and we were down at Belmont for the Belmont Stakes. So at some point, maybe we'd like to swing down and visit you down at Monmouth because, as I say, sounds interesting to stop in the sports book as well. And I'm sure some of our viewers will be making that trip. And as I say, wish you a lot of good luck, you and everybody down at Monmouth, on the future with the sports book.
Well, we hope to have you down here. And as I was born and raised in Albany and Niskayuna,
Okay.
I can tell the viewers that this is a beautiful spot and a beautiful racetrack to take a road trip down.
Bill, appreciate the visit, and again, good luck in the future.
Thanks, Seth. Appreciate it.
Bill Knopf from Monmouth Park, again, rooting for them, and hopefully that sports betting concept moves up here to New York as well and gives us an opportunity to play along and help the horse racing game in the process as well. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, again, really nice stakes card this evening at Churchill Downs. We'll talk to Joe Christofek, the paddock commentator from Churchill, right after this. Stay tuned.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week, OTB TV is the Capital Region's choice for the most comprehensive and informative coverage of thoroughbred and harness racing. OTB TV is the only area network delivering a steady viewership, reaching more than 540,000 households throughout the broadcast day and into the evening. Capital OTB's digital presence also plays a tremendous part in getting your message in front of potential customers. With more and more wagering moving to online, CapitalOTB.com can put your message in front of thousands of potential customers 24 hours a day. And with the addition of our new mobile app, new customers will see your message on all their digital devices. To see how affordably you can reach thousands of new customers, contact Capital OTB's Sales and Marketing Department today.
You're unbelievable. Are your favorite tracks in Florida, but you're in upstate New York? With Capital OTB, Tampa Bay Downs and Gulfstream Park are closer than you think. With more than 60 easy bet and branch locations throughout the region, you're just a short drive from all the top tracks across the country and around the world. For a complete list of all easy bet and branch locations, visit CapitalOTB.com.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, joined now by the paddock commentator from Churchill Downs, Joe Christofek. Joe, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. Looking forward to a huge night.
Yeah,
so much going on at Churchill this evening, and it's going to be phenomenal.
Do you know when Justify gets paraded?
He's going to walk over with the horses that participate in the third race. So
Okay.
It's 6:45 Eastern time is when he'll come over.
So people who are checking out the simulcast signal, that's about the time to take a look. Before we get into some of the stakes action tonight, just give me your impressions. Obviously, you eyewitnessed the Kentucky Derby victory by Justify, but the follow-up in the Preakness and then last weekend down in the Belmont Stakes, your take on the Triple Crown this year.
Well, personally, for me, it's all a blur. I think it's an absolutely remarkable accomplishment, probably echoing the sentiments from people that love this game from coast to coast, with the fact that we didn't even know who this horse was until he debuted, back in February. He's 6 for 6. He's done so much in such a short amount of time. And I'm just looking forward to seeing what's going to happen the rest of the year. There's a lot of good horses out there, 3-year-olds, and, we're going to talk about one of the better older horses that's running in the Stephen Foster in just a little bit. But it just makes for great storylines the rest of the season leading up to the Breeders' Cup Classic, which is right back at Churchill Downs.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I talked to Mark Casse earlier, And, he talked about world approval and get him over the track where the Breeders' Cup will be run. And I think that'll be the game plan for a lot of trainers over the next few months and into the fall. All right, let's jump into the stakes card this evening. The Matt Winn is race number 5. It'll go off scheduled a little before 8 o'clock. Always a fun race for the 3-year-olds. Grade 3 going 1 mile and 1/16. And Joe, while we talk, I'm going to pull up the Sir Barton from Preakness weekend down at Pimlico, and number 8, Axeman, will be the winner under Mike Smith. Mike is scheduled to be back in town at Louisville on Saturday night, and this was only the 4th career start. This might be a budding and up-and-coming 3-year-old for Bob Baffert. I had to put him on top, but I've been kind of married to Combatant all year long, and so I put him right underneath. And for me, it was kind of between those two. I think once you got away from those couple of horses, it becomes a little dicier underneath. But what were your thoughts in the Matt Winn?
Baffert's won this race 4 times, and so is Steve Asmussen. So something's got to give tonight between those two. Axeman on paper looks like he's probably going to get loose on the lead. I think the Sir Barton was probably not as good as it looks on paper. I mean, everything was winning on the lead that day.
Yeah.
And, he got just a clear advantage and was much the best at the boot. Recent workouts at Churchill, I don't think have been that great. I think he might be vulnerable again, but he's got such a tactical advantage. So it's a tough call. I pick Combatant on top. I think you can throw his Kentucky Derby out. Very consistent performer. Obviously, Gun Runner won this race as a 3-year-old. Combatant is not Gun Runner, but Steve Asmussen knows how to point towards this race with horses that ran in the Derby, take a step back, running a race like the Matt Winn. And Combatant's a consistent sort that is going to run his race. Home Base is a horse that was very impressive at Churchill back in late May, but it looks like they're going to go to the Fort Erie route, Canadian Triple Crown, second leg with Home Base, who is an Ontario bred. So I got a feeling that might be a springboard tonight at that race coming up later on in the summer. So I like Combatant, but again, Axeman has a tactical edge.
And what I put Funny Duck in the 3rd spot. I didn't know what to do with Funny Duck. Wins at 39-1 over the sloppy seal track. Did he just appreciate the return to dirt and he'll back that up, or was it a freakish performance over the sloppy track?
The way I'm looking at it, if you ran well in the Pat Day Mile, I'm going to probably hold it against you. If you ran poorly, I'm going to give you an excuse. Fast track tonight for sure. Much different ball game. I'd love to see the horse run well, but I think that was a little bit of a fluke.
Yeah, speaking of that, what is the weather like for tonight?
It's going to be in the 90s during the day, so, when we start the card at 6 o'clock, it's going to be warm, but then it's going to be really comfortable after that. But, yeah, no chance of showers. We're going to be fast and firm.
All right, let's move on to the Wise Dan Grade 2 event. They're on the grass at 1 mile and 1/16, and this is obviously going to attract a lot of attention. As I said, I talked earlier with Mark Casse, and he felt that maybe the Tampa race took a little bit more out of world approval than they thought, and then the Triple Cross Country, and so he's, kind of making the case to draw a line through that race last time. I'm going to do that. I just think that looks like such an aberration on the resume of world approval, and now they've had a little time, and Mark said, it took him a couple of weeks to look good in the morning again, but now he has. They were pointed for the Dixie, and the weather went against them, so I think now they've had even a little more time. So I put world approval on top, and we looked at that race earlier. But I'm going to pull up the Monmouth from Monmouth Park on May 26th. The winner will be number 3, Money Multiplier, but running second that day was number 4, Divisadero. Seasonal debut for number 4, Divisadero. It was a 102 buyer figure, so I have that one right underneath. But in the 3rd spot, Shining Copper, Ken and Sarah Ramsey and Mike Maker. Clearly, the game plan will be to try to run them off their feet with Shining Copper, and that's always a dangerous angle. So I look at that one with a little bit of trepidation. But for me, I put world approval on top. I'm going to look for him to rebound. Your thoughts on the Wise Dan?
Yeah, world approval was so good last year. I mean, Eclipse Award-winning turf champion, and deservedly so. But this is a game about risk versus reward. And that Santa Anita race was dull, and the race before that he won at Tampa, I didn't think was that great either. So he's got to reprove himself to me before I can back him at a short price. Talked about Divisadero. He's 3 for 3 at Churchill. He won the American Turf. He's won the Turf Classic twice. But that was when Buff Bradley trained him. Now it's Kelly Rubley, And you got a Maryland jockey, Javion Toledo, the leading rider in Maryland, but he's never ridden a race at Churchill, as far as I know. So that's a little bit of a concern to me. He's never run a race. He's never ridden in a race on this turf course. I like Mr. Misunderstood. I think he's had some really, really unlucky trips in recent starts. He ran into an absolute buzzsaw in Synchrony in 2 races over longer distances at Fairgrounds. He got off to a horrible start in the Maker's Mark Mile, finished very, very strong after being hung out to dry 7 wide off the turn. I think he's going to fly under the radar. He loves this turf course. I think there'll be enough speed for him to run at. And, Mr. Misunderstood, he's one of my better plays of the night.
All right, 10-1 on the morning line, and we like it. The Fleur de Lis, mile and an eighth for the ladies, grade 2, $200,000. While we talk here, I found a horse interesting. I have it down in the 3rd spot. I put Valadorna on top, and we watched the replay of that a little earlier when we talked to Mark Casse. 2nd spot, I put Song of Spring, coming out of the nice race over at Pimlico, albeit on a sloppy track. But Awestruck to me is interesting. I'm going to pull up the allowance optional claimer from May 10th. Awestruck will be the number 7 horse. And off of that race, that race and the race before over at Keeneland, a couple of nice wins. So comes in obviously in good form, in improving form if you look at the buyer figures. So at 8-1 with Irad Ortiz on board, Awestruck to me is maybe a little bit interesting. Have that one down in the 3rd spot. But again, at perhaps a little bit of a price could be intriguing in here. What are your thoughts on the Fleur de Lis?
First of all, I don't think Awestruck is going to be 8-1. I would be thrilled to get 4-1 or 9-2 on her. She's going to be the local horse that everybody's gravitating to. I think the 9 furlong distance based on the pedigree should be within her scope. She's been awesome in her last 2 races at Keeneland, sprinting, and then the 1-turn mile here at Churchill, where she absolutely disposed of Life's Blessing, one of the Bob Baffert horses that was stabled here over the course of the spring meet. Awestruck has got her arrow pointing up. I think most of these have either leveled out in their careers and we know what they are, or they're kind of headed in the wrong direction. So I'm going to go with the horse with upside. I agree with you on Valadorna, too. I think she's got a little bit of upside as well. She's a 4-year-old now. She stormed home to win the Double Dog Dare at Keeneland last out. I think she's going to run a big race as well. So for multi-race wagering purposes, I think the only 2 that are going to be on my ticket are Awestruck and Valadorna.
Ah, nice. All right, let's move on to the highlight of the evening, and that is the Stephen Foster Grade 1 event. $500,000 up for grabs. And for this one, I pulled up the obvious, the Ali Sheba from Churchill back on Derby weekend. And Backyard Heaven, the number 4 horse, is going to win and win pretty convincingly in only the 4th career start. 2 starts back at Aqueduct, a 108 buyer. This race we're going to look at, the Ali Sheba, 105 buyer figure. Again, only 4 career starts. Chad Brown, Ken and Sarah Ramsey. This could be a potential monster in the making for Chad Brown and the Ramseys. But you know what? Irish War Cry is maybe interesting to me, too. Obviously, they set an electrolyte imbalance a couple of races back at Gulfstream where the horse tossed in a complete dud and seems to have validated that with the nice performance last time at Pimlico. Still, number-wise, probably a little bit light as compared to Backyard Heaven. Pavel, intriguing to me. That race at Santa Anita last time was a little bit of a dud, but I think there's the potential there for Pavel to maybe move forward. So I have that one in my mix as well. Your thoughts in the Stephen Foster?
Yeah, I hope a lot of people are intrigued by Irish War Cry. I hope he gets bet again. I think he's one of the most overrated horses in the country, quite honestly. Obviously, he took advantage of the surface at Pimlico to win the Pimlico Special. Backyard Heaven, I think he's got a chance to be one of the top handicap horses in the country. He was against the inside bias at Churchill when he won, when he chewed up Always Dreaming and spit him out and then drew away and nobody got close to him. He's good. I mean, I got fooled by those Aqueduct races. I'm like, how good can this horse be? He's a son of Tisway. I mean, really, out of a Grand Slam mare, this isn't supposed to be a 9 furlong or even a 1.25 mile good horse. But, you know, strange things happen in horse racing, and he's proved himself on the track. So I do like Backyard Heaven quite a bit. Looking at Lee is sneaky. Looking at Lee ran a huge race on Kentucky Derby Day at Churchill Downs, and that's turned out to be a pretty key race moving forward. Irish Freedom, who was third that day with an impressive winner at Churchill, or was an impressive winner at Churchill a couple weeks ago. I think this horse is pointed back in the right direction. Of course, Steve Asmussen won this race last year with Gunrunner and won it with Curlin as well. Looking at Liaison in the same category as those two, but he's going to be a little bit of a price. You know, you're going to get the sentimental money on Patch. You're going to get those people that are betting Irish War Cry and, you know, flushing their money down the toilet. And then Pavel, I agree with you. He's disappointing to me, man. I thought he was going to be a lot better than he is, but I think he's still got a chance to be a good horse, and I would love to see him run well tonight.
Joe, before we let you go, we're obviously a ways into the meet now, and as I've been looking at the past performances, as we've been talking, of people playing undercards or just Churchill in general, some thoughts on the human side of things. It seems like Hernandez on the jockey side has kind of stepped out at this meet.
Yeah, I'd love to see Brian win the title. I mean, Corey Lanery's won 15 of them. Brian hasn't won one yet, and he's certainly deserving. He's riding for a lot of the hotter barns here at Churchill this meet. Eddie Keneally's just having a ridiculous meet. He's like 45%. And we're not talking about 10 or 20 starters. He's been a regular contributor to the overnight program here. A lot of trainers. I think I saw that 9 of the top 10 trainers at Churchill are 20% or higher, led by Steve Asmussen, just based on pure numbers. But he's having a really good meet too. Some good 2-year-old performances. It's been a really strong meet from top to bottom. That single six was hit the other day.
Ron Paolucci.
Yeah, I know, man. How crazy is that? I mean, I got to see his ticket. Somebody tweeted it out. Pretty cool. I mean, for him, obviously, we were hoping at Churchill that it would survive to tonight so we could do a mandatory pay and then get ready for closing day in a couple of weeks. But it's been a great meet from top to bottom. Obviously, highlighted by Derby weekend, which could have been better weather-wise. But Mother Nature's smiling upon us tonight, and it should be a memorable one.
And then you move on to Ellis?
Actually, no. I mean, it hasn't been formally announced, but I guess it's cool if I say something here. I've been hired full-time by Churchill Downs, my second full-time job in my 25-year career in the industry. I'm going to be doing Churchill, as always. I'm going to be doing Fairgrounds, which I did this past winter, and then filling up the rest of my schedule with some work for TwinSpires.com. So
excellent.
I got a full-time job. I won't be doing Ellis. I'll be going back to Ellis just to visit and to enjoy the races as a fan. Same with Kentucky Downs and Arlington Park, etc. But yeah, full-time gig. So I'm very, very happy to announce that.
Congratulations. Very good. And just before we let you go, how's the racing partnership going?
It's going good, man. Our colt got tacked for the first time earlier this week, and he's been going to the track. Eskin for it, who's a son of Eskin Drea, and then we've got Yes It's Ginger, who is a daughter of Yes It's True. Bought for $60,000 for the colt and $40,000 for the filly. It's brilliant racing, the partnership we put together, and we're thrilled with him, man. You don't know what's going to happen until you get him out in the general population of horses, get a few breezes under their belt. But when you wake up in the morning and you've got unraced 2-year-olds, it's always exciting. So we'll see what happens. We're cautiously optimistic, as most horse owners are.
We're rooting for you on the racetrack, but we're also rooting for you tonight in the paddock. We'll be listening to the commentary. Always enjoyable to listen to a little Joe Christofek before each and every race at Churchill Downs. Joe, appreciate the conversation this morning, and again tonight, good luck.
All right, you too, Seth. It's going to be a memorable night. I hope everybody out there in simulcast land enjoys it, and I'm honored and privileged to be in the paddock in person for the races tonight and Justify and all that good stuff. So looking very forward to it, and always a pleasure talking to you guys.
Joe, thanks again. Joe Christofek.
Cheers.
From Churchill Downs. Appreciate it. Great night tonight. Again, Joe said Justify would walk over with the horses for the third race, so you would assume the parade will be before the third race goes off. So if you're watching the simulcast signal, you'll see that. But a really great stakes card that kicks off. First post time was, I believe, 6 o'clock. Yes, 6 o'clock. And the Stephen Foster was 9:39 scheduled post time for the big race. And, of course, world approval a little bit before that. It's a fun night tonight at Churchill Downs, so tune in for that right here on Capital OTB TV. So thanks to Joe. Thanks a little bit earlier to Bill Knopf from Monmouth Park. Great to talk about the introduction of sports betting down there just a couple of days ago. And Certainly a big help to horse racing down there. And again, we hope that spreads throughout the rest of the horse racing industry in the country. And thanks also to Mark Cassie at the beginning of the program. All right, let me hit you with some of the promos and events coming up here at Capital OTB. There is a Fan Appreciation Day today, Cohoes branch. If you're a patron at Cohoes, we want you to swing by starting at noontime today, about an hour. Hop in the car, head over to the Cohoes branch, and give us our chance to say thank you to you for your patronage. Coming up next Wednesday, the $100 NYRA Pick 5 online bankroll. More information on how you can get your chance to participate at capitalotb.com. Fan Appreciation Day next Thursday at the Molinos Pub. If you're a patron there, Thursday at about 1 o'clock, swing in and take advantage of all the promos that will be happening there that allow us to, again, say thank you to you for your patronage. Also Thursday, Sully and I live from Saratoga Harness. Should be fun. Trackside up at the harness track up the Northway. We'll have a $100 bankroll to play for folks during the day. You can check out the website to find out how you can get your chance to participate, but it should be a lot of fun. Been doing handicapping on the harness track Thursdays and Sundays during the OTB Live program for a few months now. Look forward to getting up there and being live trackside at the harness track. Again, that's next Thursday. We'll have cut-ins all afternoon. Should be a lot of fun. Friday, the Bounty Bet returns. It'll be the late pick 4 at Woodbine. Again, all you have to do is make a late pick 4 bet at Woodbine with your Capital Bets account, and you're in for a shot at all or at least a piece of that bounty. The 3% bonus at Churchill Downs continues through the month of June. More information on that at the website. And of course, Bet 50, Get 50 also continues through the month of June. Sign up for a brand new account and bet 50 in before the end of the month. Get $50 put into your account. Want to thank our friends at Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program, some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on great racing north of the border. All right, jam-packed show. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll be back at it again tomorrow morning. Game plan, I just have to iron out with the time difference, but the game plan tomorrow is to have Nick Luck on. He's, of course, the foreign correspondent for NBC. NBC will be covering Royal Ascot this week, and that kicks off on Tuesday. So the game plan tomorrow on Racing Across America, Nick Luck will join us to talk a little Royal Ascot, and Sully and I will also do stakes recaps and some handicapping as well. That's all at 10 o'clock tomorrow, right here on Racing Across America. In the meantime, I'll be back in a couple hours with a Saturday edition of OTB Live. That should be a lot of fun. So I'll wrap things up for Racing Across America for this Saturday morning, but stay tuned. A couple hours, we'll be back looking at some racing action this afternoon. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in a few.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.